Imagine knowing exactly what your students are learning and exactly which steps you need to take next.
Join us in Down with the Reading Quiz to craft meaningful and productive formative assessments that move away from gotcha moments of basic recall and toward assessing what your students actually can do.
In this 30-minute free masterclass, we'll share 3 powerful assessment keys that work for any novel at any time of the year.
Head to shop.bravenewteaching.com/masterclass to sign up, and we'll also send you a free workbook to keep track of all your notes.
Once again, that's shop.bravenewteaching.com/masterclass to nail formative assessments forever.
Well, hello and welcome back to Brave New Teaching, and welcome back to Camp BNT. Hi, Amanda.
I love camp. Hi.
Hey, are you a happy camper?
I am a happy camper, actually.
That's good. I am a happy camper as well. I'm just loving that, like, our understanding of camp, and as it should be, is just whatever makes you really happy in the summer. Therefore, today we're going to talk a little bit about our summer bucket list that's part of Camp BNT. And really, it's just all about reading books. Like, that's it.
It's not complicated. It's just not, it's simple.
And this part of our bucket list is probably my favorite part of the bucket list because it's treats that we decided to talk about. Like, who doesn't want to just talk about treats, especially summer treats? And I have unlocked some part of my algorithm on both TikTok and what's it called? The pink one, Instagram. Oh my God.
It's Summer Marie.
Yikes, bikes. And it's like all these frozen, delightful treats that make me so happy. So happy. What are your favorite? I mean, we know I've talked all the time about s'mores, and I have started to really get into a deep dive of different types of s'mores, like made with a croissant.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Stop it. So good. I haven't had one, but I assume
they're good. I should send you this reel baked by Melissa.
Yes.
She did a pretzel s'more thing that looked amazing. And
let's make it when you come here.
That's so soon. I'm almost getting on a plane. Yes. Okay. I'll send you the reel and then we can make like smashed pretzels, a little bit of nut butter to like hold it all together. And then like the marshmallows, the chocolate. Yeah. Not mad. I think my treats of the summer, I've been chasing. If you are a happy hour member, you might remember that in the winter, I think it was, we did an episode where I actually brought a cocktail to our happy hour.
Yeah.
If those of you who are not in happy hour, you might be like, oh, I thought you guys were always just like sitting at a bar, drinking and talking about teaching. We're not actually. Most of the time, Marie and I are drinking water or coffee, but
yes,
I am leaning into my summer treat is not necessarily alcoholic, but I am leaning into my spicy sweet era.
Ooh.
Pretty hard. I am basically following any breadcrumbs I can to find tahini flavored anything. I have the popsicles. I have the ice cream. I have all of the spicy, sweet, savory things that are there. And then of course, like I have anytime that's on the menu, I'm ordering a jalapeno margarita or a spicy margarita.
It's just the right thing to do. Yeah.
Yes. So that's both a beverage and like an actual treat, but like that's what I'm leaning into. And even just like on fruit, like I don't like watermelon unless it's covered in tahini.
That's so funny.
So that's where I'm at is I'm all about the spicy this summer.
Okay. I've always been all about s'mores because I just freaking love them, but I cannot stop eating popsicles.
It's hard to
left
do.
And right. And actually ice cream cakes. My mother made an ice cream sandwich cake where it was like a layer of ice cream sandwiches. And then it was really rich. So it took us a long time to get through it, but it was so good. Ice cream sandwiches, peanut butter that was like melted and then spread around.
Yes.
Maybe another layer of ice cream sandwich, Cool Whip, and then was it chocolate shaving or something like that on top. Amanda, peanut butter cups chopped up. And then freeze it so it kind of gels into a cake-like thing and cut it up into squares. I dream about this cake.
Can I put in a request?
Yes, you should. It
would benefit both of us, wouldn't it?
So good.
If I asked your mom for it, she'd have to do it because it's for me.
It's for you. No, she'd be all in. Yeah. So that's I'm like leaning in to just let's go dairy, basically, is what I want.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been doing a lot of ice cream cones at home, just sitting out in the backyard, like scooping up the ice cream, putting it on a sugar cone and sitting in the backyard. And like me and my kids will just sit and have our cones. And it's a nice way to just kind of slow down because like you can't do a whole lot of other things while you're eating ice cream or an ice cream cone because it's going to melt all over the place.
True.
So you kind of just have to be present and in the moment. And it's nice.
Look at you making the case. Ice cream for mindfulness. I love
ice cream for mindfulness.
I love this. I'm going to tell my therapist this and be like, listen, you want me to be present. I just need to eat more ice cream.
Yeah. Scooped onto a cone.
Done.
That's it.
I'm not really a cone girly. I'm much more a bowl girly, but
that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. You know what?
Thank you. It's okay. Thank you.
I accept you.
I needed that affirmation.
I really do. All right. Well, friends, now that we've really dug into our summer treats and everything, I just realized we haven't even gone through our intro.
Well, we have a pretty serious book to talk about today. We need to get everybody feeling good, like remembering that like camp is not just all of the books, but it's also the fun stuff. So we are going to talk about our book today.
Might I suggest, because our book is heavy, but it's good. It's so good, but it's heavy. Maybe get yourself some ice cream right now. Pause us. Go get yourself
what you did there.
A nice little treat. Yeah. Or just like really think through what you want to have after this episode, because everybody needs a little treat sometimes. It's good times.
This is true.
While you're thinking about that, here's what we're going to do. Cue the music.
You're listening to Brave New Teaching, and we are so much more than a podcast.
We give teachers the inspiration, support, and tools to challenge the status quo.
I'm Amanda, and I'm a former English teacher from Illinois.
And I'm Marie, and I'm a teacher from Southern California.
Join us at bravenewteaching.com to find out more about our courses, festivals, and get every episode's show notes.
We're so glad you're here. Enjoy the show. All right, the YA pick for Camp BNT is one that Amanda has been talking about for a long time. And I finally got my own copy, even though I told her I would like forever ago. And it's by one of our favorite authors, Sabaa Tahir, and it is her novel, All My Rage. And it is so well written. It is so accessible and applicable to our students. And Amanda has a whole list of notes on it. I have to be completely transparent and upfront and honest. I personally had a really hard time getting through this book because of where I am right now in my life. It is heavy. It's got a lot of grief and a lot of rage. And it's written so well that it like cut too deep. And I had to step back from it quite a few times. So just know, and it's not it's not the same kind of trigger warnings as I have on some of the novels of like assault and that sort of does it? Am I misquoting myself?
No, it does. And she has a trigger warning in the first page of the book. I mean, All My Rage contains the following content: drug and alcohol addiction, physical abuse, Islamophobia, mentions of repressed sexual assault, tense exchange with law enforcement, and death. So, just a few.
Right.
Just a few.
Right. And it was the grief aspect of it was a lot for me, and I had to step back a few times. So just know going in that it is very powerful. I think it's going to be extremely cathartic for a lot of people, students and adults alike, but it's big.
Well, and if listeners have not gone, I always get the numbers of these episodes wrong, but if you've not listened to Marie and I talk about how we assign reading, this is really important for a book like this. If you do get through it, you do read it, you are like, this is something I want my students to have. I think the approach of assigning large chunks at a time is really important.
Yes.
Having broad, sweeping conversations about things where students can enter where they feel comfortable and are completely supported if there are 15 to 20 pages that they completely skip. Having summaries available. Like, I don't want us to get to a place where I think America's going, which is, there's triggering things, cancel it. We as a as a group, right, as English teachers, I think need to embrace a couple of things that are going on here. Number one, Marie, right, admitting and talking about verbalizing. This was hard for me. I'm an adult, right? Like telling kids that it's okay to have that kind of a reaction to a book because we are reading this for a conversation, not because there's some kind of weird forced mandate of you must know every word on every page. Yeah. However, right, like what's hard for Marie might be cathartic for Sarah, might be new information for Billy, might be, right, all of these things that I think that it's worth today's conversation in this podcast and then more conversations about how do we continue to teach triggering, difficult, brilliant works of literature, but still respect what kids need and like do it in a way that is not how we've done it before, right? Like you need to read every page, like that mentality. We stepping back is so important, not just for like the instructional part, but for the emotional part too.
Yes. And even just instructional, emotional learning, like just students, if we really want them to learn, they need to be able to process. Yes. And that takes time and it looks so different for everybody. So yes, like Amanda said, we do have, we talk about how we assign reading quite a bit, but we do have an episode specifically about like how we assign reading that I think would be very helpful as part of this conversation. So Amanda, let's start it this way. What about this book made you say this has to be our YA pick for Camp BNT? Like what was it that led you here? I mean, it is beautiful. Don't get my transparency of saying this was hard for me to like mislead you anybody. It is a beautiful novel.
So I was having this, you and I have this conversation all the time, but I was recently having this conversation with Abby Gross. You guys know we've had her on the podcast a couple times. Abby and I have been talking a lot about the lack of YA lit options on TPT. And just kind of in general, I feel like there's a lot of us who are grabbing YA titles and putting them in book clubs and making them choices, but there are few and far between the right YA text that can hold its weight as a whole class text. And Marina, again, we've talked about this on podcasts a lot. Like we believe in balance. I think that there's so much to be gained from choice in book clubs and lit circles. Like they're foundational in my curriculum, but that doesn't mean that they've completely replaced the whole class text experience. And I think that when we talk about whole class novels, the goals are different than the goals are with a choice novel. So I'm always on the hunt for what is the next YA novel that can really hold up to what I would need a whole class novel to do. And so I just finished my unit finally, because before All My Rage for me was the Grace Year. The Grace Year to me had all the legs to stand on, from literary merit to engagement with kids, like all of the things. All My Rage was the next one on that list for me. And I thought this is the time to bring it into camp so that you guys could have an excuse to take a break, read it, and then debrief it with us and really think about, like, does this have a place in your classroom in the future as a whole class novel? I mean, yes, a lot of these will be great in book clubs, we said, but I think this one can stand on its own really well.
I also think that it being an all class situation might be more appropriate for the topics that are in here.
Yes.
Yes. Because again, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And
a lot of books are a lot.
And a lot of books are like beloved, right? Like Their Eyes Are Watching God. I mean, we could, how many things could we list here? I think what makes All My Rage so challenging is because it's YA, because it's written from this visceral point of view.
Right. It's so accessible. Yes. Right? It's so easy to connect with. Yes. It's so accessible that it almost made it more jarring. It didn't almost. It made it more jarring for me because it was just so raw and beautifully written in that it's not veiled emotion. Like there is nothing covering any of it. And it's kids and seeing them deal with things in a way that was very authentic to the way I've seen students deal with stuff. I do love the multiple perspectives. There are multiple points of view of going back and forth. I also really liked the manipulations and that's what I'm reading straight off of Amanda's notes, is like the way that time is used here is we talk a lot about memory, and lately on the podcast, we've been talking about memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that is a part of this is memory and how memory feeds family, like generational interactions and trauma. And yeah.
I think that was one of the things that I thought, when we're talking about a whole class novel, people are going to ask you about the author's craft components, right, of the text. And I think that these are things that are, when I try to look, I'm thinking like, what does Sabaa Tahir do really well? What are the signature moves, right? I've asked this question all the time. And the multiple point of view is connected to those parallel plots and the manipulations in timeline, right? Like we have an auntie who has passed away, but we still hear from her throughout the entire novel when her point of view comes up, we hear about the past. Like the past fills in pieces of the present. And this is something that is very difficult to teach in kind of like the typical canon. Like there are not a lot of novels in the canon that do this in a way that's, I think, tangible for kids to not only comprehend, but to ask those deeper questions like, okay, well, what if? What if this character was alive longer and didn't die right from the beginning, and we actually heard her thoughts alive versus like right from the grave, right? Those kind of what if conversations are where the critical thinking and like the understanding of how an author does what he or she does, that's how our students become better at analysis.
Yeah.
But if they can't have that conversation because the text is too difficult, then when do they get to practice that, like make mistakes and have those kinds of craft conversations? So that to me is really, really powerful. And then just like the characterization components, if you're going to teach characterization, getting characters from their own points of view also, and then also from the opposing character's point of view too, really gives you a different, right, like 360 of who that person is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's there you go. Like you're set up for your analysis work right there.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I just like the themes. It's got those like really widely done themes, right? You've totally got the American dream. You've totally got coming of age, but it's done in a way that is not typically represented in our classroom literature. Like you were talking about the canon. There's not a whole lot in the canon that's representing Pakistan. Like there's not a whole lot representing a family that starts their journey or one of our timelines in Pakistan and then also in California in the United States.
So if you're kind of new to All My Rage, here's like the quick overview from the back cover, right? So in Lahore, Pakistan, that's the then. Misbah is a dreamer and a storyteller, newly married to Tawfiq in an arranged match. After their young life is shaken by tragedy, they come to the United States and open the Clouds Rest Inn motel, hoping for a new start, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So they're a new family, right? They're trying to start over. We have this American dream experience from an immigrant family who's really lost everything, right? The tragedy in Pakistan was horrific. And then we have the now in Juniper, California. Saluddin and Noor are more than best friends. They are family. Growing up as outcasts in the small desert of Juniper, California, they understand each other the way no one else does. Until the fight, which destroys their bond with the swift fury of a star exploding. So like they're scrambling to rescue the family motel. They're dealing with going off to college but also trying to like stay true to what the family needs, right? Like how do I move on to college if my family needs me to run the motel? How do I move on with all these dreams that I have, but I haven't confronted the traumas of my childhood? There's so much about that push and pull of coming of age that's so hard for kids to wrestle with, especially, I think, in the immigrant experience of like wanting to stay true to your roots and where you come from, or not understanding how to do that, or if it's important or why it's important.
Sure.
But
because
also
they're still
like,
kids. Yeah.
Right? They're kids. Like, and then moving on into the world in a way that honors their future, which is like a combination of their past and their present. So that to me is like, I think the other, I wanted to read it. You said the American dream. There's such a gorgeous passage. I think this really is, oh my gosh, it's so good. I wanted to share with you guys. This is from Misbah, a flashback. And it says here, such plans he had for you, such dreams. But is that not the case for all of us? We plan, we dream, we hope. In America, on some days, the dream feels so close you can taste it. And children are the greatest dream of all, a dream manifest, walking, talking, venturing into the wide world, open to success and joy and greatness, open to wild, spectacular possibility, but open to destruction also. Right. Thanks,
it's
Saba.
Good.
Here.
Yeah, I know. She's so good.
She's so good. But this is a different conversation about the American dream than what we're having in a lot of traditional texts. And I think that's also one of the things that we're looking for when we're trying to introduce new voices is this one, right? Yeah. Children as the American dream is, I mean, talk about a loaded conversation, talk about the pressure that comes with, and the reality, like the hope, the despair, like all of the things are loaded in that.
I love a book that comes with a discussion guide.
Right?
Like the back of my book has a discussion guide, and then it's got like additional activities to further discussion. Yep. And it's because it has been published and distributed with this target audience in mind.
Yes.
And getting young people, especially younger people, talking about hard topics in a way that is a little bit removed from themselves, so it doesn't feel super overwhelming or super invasive. Yeah, it's the mental health crisis that we are currently experiencing, especially among our adolescents and our young people, ways to get them thinking about these things, like the grief that all of these characters are navigating. It's really necessary. And this is a great way to do that.
I think, to steal a phrase Marie uses so well all the time, is I think this is the kind of novel that meets kids where they are. It completely admits the reality of all the feelings, of all of the, of all of the things that have gone wrong, of all the things that are confusing. It honors rage, right? There is so much anger in this book, which is, I think, something that is missing from our curriculums.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we've got rage in like Shakespeare.
Sure.
But it's that Shakespearean, theatrical, biblical even rage that takes over and it's what makes it a tragedy, right? It's not the rage that comes from when your first love rejects you. And that rage that comes from embarrassment and hurt.
Yes.
While you're also navigating so many other real life things that objectively, and I think in a lot of storytelling, can be the big stuff, like losing a loved one and dealing with financial struggles. They will often be portrayed as more important than or overshadowing unrequited love, especially that of like a teenager.
Yes.
But for that teenager, they are all the same. They are all the same level.
Yep.
Like that's it. So again, yes, it is. It's just meeting kids where they're at and like making it so that their experiences are not belittled, right? Like it's saying, yeah, that's real. That feeling that you have is real. And so is this one and this one and this one.
Will kids love this book? I don't know.
It depends on the kid.
It depends on the kid. But I don't think that's really what drew me to it, was like, kids are going to love this. So many of my kids are going to love this books are actually the ones that I'm going to put in lit circles, right? The ones that they're going to do more independently.
Right.
I think by the end of this book, most kids will really appreciate it. I don't know that even me, like, I don't reread all my rage for fun.
Sure.
But it holds a special place in my literary memory of what it taught me and what I experienced while reading it. And that's what I think is really powerful for students. And it's not going to take you that long to get through it. I mean, it moves quickly. It's action-packed. It's definitely the kind of thing that's going to be, I don't know. I think the engagement is going to be through the roof, even if the engagement isn't just, I love this book, right? Like, whereas like Gracier, I feel like
so much to talk about. Yeah.
Yes. Gracier is so much more like of all these two that I've kind of like really like narrowed down. Gracier is so much more fictional, right? Like it's so much, it's a dystopia, right? Like you can kind of lean into like how distant it is. Well, not too distant, but like it's distant from reality. This one is not at all distant from reality.
And that's why I had to keep putting it down. Like, I'm going to need a minute.
Yeah.
That was when I had to parallel with another book. Yeah.
right. So there is the 411 on All My Rage. I would love to hear your thoughts, share with us on Instagram, record a little video or send us an email, send us a voice memo. What are your thoughts if you've read it already? If you're reading it with us, what are you thinking while you're reading it?
Tag us. Thinking? Yes.
I mean, open up the book and take a picture of some passages and tag us on Instagram so we can see your thought process and we can share that with more teachers.
Ooh, we should start sharing book snaps.
Yes. Book snaps. But the more that we share, and I know that we have a lot of our teachers are just so wonderfully dedicated and hardworking and are not necessarily like super social butterflies, and that's okay. But even if you're sharing like in your own circle, right? Like you leave us a review or you send this episode to somebody. This is how we're going to get more teachers on board with not necessarily all teaching YA books, but thinking about the possibility of things changing in the future and looking a little different than how they have.
Absolutely. We will put some links to where you can get All My Rage and support an independent bookstore near you in the show notes to this episode. The audiobook is actually pretty good too. That's how I listened to it. So take a little look at the links that are on the show notes and let us know. Or if there's another book that you're like, ooh, I see your All My Rage and I raise you blah. Let us know what you think because we like the suggestions too. Yes.
Okay. Not to be missed is the rest of Sabatahir's lineup.
Oh my gosh.
Please. Her fantasy lineup is amazing.
So good. Yes. I know. Okay. I know. I want to plan a fantasy unit for my AmLit class and I really need to get going on that. So you're going to help me, Amanda. And so are the rest of you. Friends, we are really enjoying Camp BNT with you this year. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today and reading along with us this summer and sharing with us all of the things that you are doing on your bucket list. It's super fun. Keep it up. Yeah.
We're proud of you. And Miss Sabatahir, we're going to keep reaching out to you. We have been working really hard to get her on the podcast. We're going to keep working.
She's busy, man. She's very successful.
She's got a
lot going on.
Coming out. Yeah, she's very, very busy.
Yes. All right, friends. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Thanks again for listening to Brave New Teaching.
We'd love to keep the conversation going over on Instagram.
And while you're there, check out the links in our bio for the most up-to-date events going on in the Brave New Teaching community.
Thanks for being here and have a great week at school.